Before I bring this meeting to order and the public hearing, I just would like to review procedurally what we have to do. I will open up the planning board meeting, and then I will open up the joint public hearing for the planning board, and then I will turn the floor over to Ann Clementi, the chair of the CBA, and she will do the same, open up her special meeting and the public hearing. So with that being said, I want to officially bring the planning board meeting to order for March 6th, 2025. And I would like to open up the public hearing for the joint public hearing for the planning board and the zoning board of appeals for Marie's News. And I will now turn the floor over to Ann.
Thank you, Russ. The Town of Brunswick Zoning Board of Appeals opens the public hearing of the Zoning Board of Appeals on the application for area variances submitted by Reviews LLC, and also the special meeting held by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay. All right, at this time, everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, the procedure for the public hearing, in this case, the joint public hearing, is as follows. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear concerns, comments, and views from the general public regarding a specific proposal or application. All public hearings are electronically recorded, and a written record of the proceedings is generated. The applicant will be required to respond to all concerns and comments made at the public hearing, and subsequently, the planning board and the zoning board of appeals will consider all concerns and comments when evaluating the application to ensure that the applicant has addressed all the issues in question. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. Notice of public hearing will be read by the planning board and ZBA attorney. Next, the applicant will give a brief presentation on the proposal and will provide any updates on the application. Upon completion of the applicant's remarks, persons from the public will be recognized, and these individuals will be allowed to speak and offer their concerns and comments and views. Since the proceedings of the public hearing is electronically recorded, it is requested that all speakers step up to and use the microphone at the podium, and all speakers give their name and address for the record. This time, I'll have the notice of public hearing read by Andy Gilchrist, our attorney.
Notice of joint public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a joint public hearing will be held by the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Brunswick at 7 p.m. on Thursday, March 6, 2025, at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, to review the site plan, minor subdivision, and special use permit applications submitted to the Planning Board and the application for area variances submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Marie's News LLC in connection with the construction of a retail store with gasoline sales on the western portion of the site and a drive-through restaurant and second retail store on the eastern portion of the site on property located at 727 to 737 Hoosick Road and 4 Mohawk Avenue. Copies of the applications and supporting documents are on file at the Town of Brunswick offices located at 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing. With this notice of joint public hearing having been published in Eastwood Press, placed on the town signboard, posted on the town website, and mailed to owners of properties located within 300 feet of the project site.
Thank you, Andy. At this time, we will applicant come up and give us a review of the application. I would suggest that maybe you set up over there so the audience can see it.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Tim Freitag with Bowler Engineering, here on behalf of the applicant, Mary's Muse LLC. First, thank you to the zoning board for being here tonight. I know this is a regular scheduled meeting for you, so another night out of your month. Appreciate your time. And of course, to the planning board. Believe it or not, we originally presented this application to the planning board in February of 2023. So it's been a long time coming for tonight. A lot of effort, a lot of review, a lot of comments to get to this point, so appreciate your time. Here with me tonight is Jared George, representing the applicant, Mary's Muse LLC. And I'll just give a brief overview of the project. And then, as the chairman mentioned, we're looking forward to hearing any questions, comments, concerns from the public that hopefully leads to a better project. A reminder to this board and to give the public a brief overview. The property is located at 727 through 737 6th Street and 4 Mohawk Ave. It consists of 7 tax parcels. Each individual parcel consists of mixed commercial or residential use. This project is proposing to consolidate those 7 lots to 2 lots, Lot 1 and Lot 2. Lot 1 will consist of a new 6,200 or 6,730 square foot retail facility with gasoline sales. That will be at the corner of Hoosick and Mohawk. And then Lot 2 will consist of 2 uses, a 2,350 square foot restaurant with drive-through and a 3,500 square foot retail facility. These properties lie within the B15 zoning district, commercial zoning district, where retail and restaurants are permitted uses. The gasoline dispensing is a permitted use subject to special permit. This process includes a subdivision process for the lot consolidation of 7 lots to 2. And we have also put forth an application to the zoning board of appeals for a few area variances that are required for the development as seen on the submitted site plan. On the easel over there is just a colored version of the site plan from the formal engineering documents that have been filed as part of our application. Lot 1 on the western side of the site will consist of 50 parking spaces, 6 fueling dispensers that will provide 12 spaces for fueling. In the northeast corner of that lot will be a masonry trash enclosure. It will be masonry and of color to match that of the proposed building. Access to both properties is proposed to be consolidated from the 7 individual lots, so 7 different driveways. Today will be consolidated to 2 driveways, one to Hoosick, one to Mohawk. We shared access for all users. The access to Hoosick Street aligns with McChesney across the street. There is an existing traffic signal there today. We will be replacing the traffic signal in its entirety to provide a 4th leg access into our development. We will also be have an access to Mohawk Avenue as shown in the northwestern corner to the site as well. On Lot 2, the eastern portion of the site would be 2,350 square foot restaurant and 3,500 square foot retail facility. That will consist of a parking lot site circulation to accommodate 47 parking spaces, meeting code. It'll also have a drive-through around the most eastern building on that plan. The drive-through doesn't have a ordering station. It's more of a pickup lane. You'll order ahead. You'll get a estimated time slot to come pick up your meal through that drive-through and pickup window. Both properties will be completely redeveloped. The existing buildings will be demolished. The utilities will be either abandoned or disconnected at the utility main services in accordance with the town utility company requirements. New, efficient, state-of-the-art utilities and stormwater management areas will be proposed on both sites. The stormwater has been extensively reviewed as part of our application. There is a large underground detention system proposed on the site to collect, treat, and infiltrate stormwater. The stormwater will also be directed to a series of catch basins and what we call as a treatment train to collect, pre-treat, treat before it goes into the ground through infiltration. There will be site lighting, landscaping, buffering, curbing, all included as part of this application. The project, dating back to 2 years ago, has gone through an extensive review with not only these two boards, but New York State DOT, Rensselaer County DOT, engineering, third-party engineering paid by the applicant to review traffic studies, many iterations to traffic studies, fire department, water department, and different county referral and secret reviews to come to the plan that we present tonight. At our last meeting with the planning board in February, the planning board did declare or did act on secret with a negative declaration that allowed us to schedule this meeting tonight. So again, a lot of background that got us here. Hopeful to sit, listen, take notes on any additional comments, concerns that there may be. I'm really looking forward to hearing what the community thinks about the project, and what we might be able to do better to have a better project at the end of the day here for the community. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn back to you and the board for any questions or comments.
Would you like to just elaborate if there's going to be any improvements to McChesney Avenue?
Sure. So as part of the New York State DOT review and the traffic studies for this project, the required mitigation to support this project is replacement of the traffic signal in Holt, as I had mentioned, but also widening of McChesney to provide an additional dedicated left turn lane as you approach the signal. So all those off-site improvements are required to support the offset mitigation for traffic for this use. There will also be pedestrian accommodations, sidewalks, crosswalks, and PED pedestrian signal buttons incorporated into the overall design.
Thank you. Okay, before I open up the public hearing to speakers, I would just like to say that we have received 5 letters with comments and views and information from residents. And I'd like to just make sure that they are on the record. We received one. It's dated July 17, 2024, from Mary Ellen Adams, who is a resident of the town of Brunswick since 1973. We received a letter dated July 31st, 2024, from Kimberly Jansen, who lives on 19 Roberts Drive. We received a letter from dated August 12, 2024, from Susan Vitolins. She lists her address at 10 Miller Road, Wyansville. And then we got a second letter from Kimberly Jansen dated September 4th, 2024, and a third letter from Kimberly Jansen dated September 19th, 2024. All these are in reference to, obviously, traffic and the issues involving this site. I've given a copy of these letters to the applicant for his review, comment, and response. Are any of those people here? If you wish to come up and speak, that's fine too. So, those are now officially on the record. And at this time, I will open up the public hearing to the public. So I will be monitoring this. So anybody wishes to come up, please raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you.
I'm Dr. Judy Purcell. I live in 39 Cole Lane in the County of Brunswick. I happen to be the owner of the former dental office that is on the other side of the wall. I operated that facility from 1984 to 2020. So I have quite a long idea of how much traffic is on Norfolk. If I may go over to the
Absolutely.
So, Mohawk Avenue is not a wide avenue. And I had a busy dental practice. But we weren't letting patients out every 5 minutes, or every 10 minutes, or even every 15 minutes. So my question, since I'm trying to sell this building here right now, for sale, I no longer am there, operating dental office. My question is, this may end up being another dental office, may end up being another office for a physician, who knows what. My concern is, this is a small little street here. So if this place is letting out all these people all the time, where do the people, that is where they egress from my property? What do they do? How do they share that little space with people that are coming out of here? Do you have any idea of how many people would be egressing from that site per hour? How many cars? So that's just my first question.
You can respond if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I would prefer that we get the questions tonight and then we can formally respond in writing, but I will just say a traffic study has been submitted and revised multiple times that include trip generations projected for both drivers.
Not a traffic light here. So, what happens?
Thank you. Next, anyone?
My name is George Jones, of 105 Northside Avenue, Georgia. And I have the same basic concern with what we do.
Sure.
Mohawk Avenue is a little street like she had mentioned, and there's quite a few families up in there with children. All right, my question would be, close this completely off because on Roosevelt Avenue. You can have all kinds of traffic going up, if anybody making a left, you'll not want to go out here because it takes you quite a while to get out. So if they close this off, you're redoing this anyway, and everybody that goes to these two places, two lots, come up through here, left into here, and back out again, just like they're gonna go back out again. And I think that's really a good way to do this and alleviate traffic from all the houses on Mohawk Avenue. and fire and ambulance stuff anyway, so we like to be doomed to the best that we can, handle it. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I'm Victoria Galvin. I live at 5 Mohawk Avenue. So again, I'm gonna come over here. This is my driveway. So I'm very concerned, just like Mr. Jones had said, that with any exit here onto Mohawk Avenue. I mean, I've lived in Brunswick and in this neighborhood my entire life. When I got married, my husband and I decided to stay here because we had such a nice little quiet neighborhood. And now I have 2 beautiful little girls that play right here, and their bus stop is right here. We have almost no traffic going through. I just think, again, like Mr. Jones said, that it's either gonna come up and around, right past my home, all of these small homes in this little community. We have another house across the street that just had a baby, so that'll be another little one playing. They'll be flying up around to get to the other light if it's too backed up to come out of this one. Or they'll be coming around and not waiting for the light and driving right through as I'm putting my daughters on and off the bus every day. Again, like you said, I don't know why they can't be all directed back out the exit that's here at the light, or even if there can't be some connection made, I understand if maybe there needs to be a second exit, that it could be sent out to the existing doctor's office or up and around to out by Burger King, like send it up to the other businesses and not interrupt our neighborhood traffic. And then my other comment, I know that we're aiming for an actual build here, but with all of this tied up, I've just been really disappointed over the last 2 years. We've had all of these buildings standing empty and also this dentist office standing empty, and we have been left to fend for ourselves with multiple transient people that have been in and out of these buildings since everything has just been left stagnant. Again, I have 2 little girls, and I look down and the doors will be wide open, and we'll call the sheriff's office over and over again, and it seems like nothing can be done. So I know that we still won't be building anything tomorrow, so that still remains a concern to me that we've just let this continue in our community for years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mary Beth Bruno. My address is 102 Lumac Front, Town of Brunswick. Before I begin, I would just like to say I wish Jennifer Manwood here. I have several comments. I'm going to go through them. The primary business at this development is Quick Check, the gasoline station. They currently have a store or gasoline station in Kingston. That location is open 24 hours. Not sure if that will be the case here in Brunswick, but I'd like that to be addressed. We don't have a 24-hour business on the Route 7 corridor. I don't know that we want one either, but I would like that to be addressed. The construction, once the construction starts, will the traffic currently on Route 7 be interrupted? And I know there's going to be a lot of big equipment coming in and out. How's that going to impact the current traffic? And that goes as far as noise and those people that live nearby. Signage. The comprehensive plan recommends coordinated signage. Right now, the Route 7 corridor is a checkerboard of signs. All different heights, setbacks are different. It's just, in my opinion, a mess and not the character that we want when people come into Brunswick Route 7. I would like the people who are planning this to put some thought into it. It's never too late. I know we have a lot of signs that are older and not as tasteful, but I think that it's not too late and we can start at this point forward. So I would ask that they be really thought well out and that we stop doing the variances because it doesn't, there's no standard any longer with all the variances that we've had with regard to signage. Lighting. The neighbors right around this development are going to be impacted the worst. I think that the lighting here should also be thoughtful of those neighbors. They're already going to be experiencing a lot of inconvenience. What once was a nice yard, looking into someone else's yard, you're going to be looking into commercial property and all the problems that are associated with that. These homes matter. I feel like when Hanford was put up and the lighting was considered, those neighbors did not count. Their homes didn't matter. They are taxpayers. They matter. So I would like to see that be upheld and no variance with regard to the lighting. There's going to be foot traffic brought across Susan Street to patronize these new businesses. I'd like to get a report on the sidewalk situation, crosswalk, making it safe for those people who are crossing over. The Route 7 corridor is also a place that should be a gateway to Brunswick, attractive to those people that live here as well as visit. There are numerous beautiful mature trees in this lot that is set to be demolished. It's 1.6 acres. That's a lot of land that is going to be blacktopped. I feel like with the right conversations and good planning, a lot of those mature trees could be saved. I know there's landscape in the planning, however, mulch, mums just don't make the character that a mature tree has. And we want to maintain our character here in Brunswick as best we can. I'm sure we all go up and down Wolf Road, that's 4 lanes. That is lined with mature trees. So next time you're on Wolf Road, look at those trees, you'll see that they are older and mature trees. Setbacks, this has been something that's been brought up, development after development. I think we've made some mistakes in the past, so here's another opportunity to have the foresight that potentially the road could be widened on one side. I'd like to see that those are part of the plan. That, of course, would be, I know sidewalks will be there, and again, green space for landscaping, but there's really an opportunity for a lot of green space. Brunswick is green space. Let's keep it there and make the most of this 1.6 acres and beautify our town as best that we can. In closing, I know these comments might seem minor. There's no issues compared to stormwater. However, it does make a difference. It really matters to me. I take a lot of pride in living in the town of Brunswick. I call it a farming town. I've lived up by to Duncan's farm my whole life. Proud of that. And it really is heartbreaking to see home after home, tree after tree being removed so that we can have more fast food. But it is zoned for commercializing. So please would ask that as all of you are together, please consider maintaining the character of our town. Thanks.
Thank you.
Kim Jensen, 14 Roberts Drive, and the Mohawk Avenue was the thing that I wanted to bring up, the concerns that the neighbors had brought up here. I did include that in one of my letters previously, and what had been brought to me by a number of residents is the turn lane on Mohawk, just step over here, that because of this driveway here, this street here, and all of the traffic that's going to be trying to come both in here, out here, and into this development over here, that this turn lane could very easily become a traffic hazard. And that, we already see, every time I'm on Hoosick, I feel like I end up in like a chicken situation with somebody trying to get to one side or the other. And so this is something that I know folks are concerned about with regard to access, safety. And that was one of the possible solutions, was either making this inaccessible or some sort of like exit only that has to be enforced by virtue of having it be one lane. I'm not sure what other options exist. I'm not an engineer, but I know that this is a point where people are concerned about there being opportunities for more traffic accidents. Granted, most of them should be low speed. We shouldn't be seeing a lot of injuries, but I think we all pay a lot for our cars and we'd like to keep them in good working order. So just to add that to the other comments on Mohawk Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Jim Tashik, 387 Brunswick Road. I have quite a few comments about, or quite a few concerns about this. I consider this like an industrial size development. I disagree with Mary Beth Uno on the acreage. I measured this up off the drawings in the building department. I reckon it's 500 feet along Hoosick and about 200 feet deep. It makes 100,000 square feet, which makes it about 2¼ acres. Okay, so the quick check portion of this is approximately the size of an American football field. Right? Just to get, you don't get much feeling for this. We're looking from looking at the flat diagrams. All the vegetation, all the trees, all the buildings are going to be stripped off the area, and that's going to be quite a change in the appearance. But that 2¼ acres sits at the base of this hill, with the drainage off this hill. And I think there's just there's a huge opportunity for a disastrous stormwater, I'd say uncontrolled, okay? Especially now in the age of, we get these weather events and these rain events where we get inches of rain in a period of, a very short period of time, an hour or two, right? And I don't know if the models that people use are accurate enough to control or disperse this stormwater. Right? And I think New York DOT has a similar concern. Okay, I think most of the people here remember the extension of the Walmart, the building out of Walmart, right? And I think this is a real classic example of a failure of stormwater projections, right? Because if you go right now on McChesney, back of Walmart, there's a retention pond, right? And what was there before? There was a house there, right? And then when the Walmart was extended, I'm sure Walmart had very good hydrologists in trying to control or project what the stormwater was going to be and how to control it. Well, they couldn't control it, right? It flooded that house so badly that they ended up, that house was sold to Walmart. It was torn down, and that's the genesis, I believe, of the retention pond there, right? These things fail. I think the hydrology is probably the weakest of the building sciences, okay? That's just my observation here. My other concern is the traffic, right? One good point is that the quick check was not going to generate a lot more traffic on Hoosick Street. All right, it's nothing in comparison with Chick-fil-A. But along with some other people here, I think there's real traffic concern around the McChesney Hoosick intersection. Okay, from the GTS traffic impact study, one from 2023, one from 2024. This is with the Chick-fil-A, and this is with the revised, with the current plans. I was surprised to see this. I looked at this, and the traffic volume through the the Quick Check project, in other words, the one currently in front of the board here, is 25% greater than the traffic going through the Chick-fil-A site, right? As it turns out that there are more cars, more traffic generated by people going to get gas, lottery tickets, whatever, rather than going and sitting down or waiting in a long queue for a meal. So there's actually more traffic going in and out of this site than there would have been with the Chick-fil-A. Right? And I had, I also have questions. None of the any of the DOT modifications are on plans in the building department. So I don't know what's going on there. I had some questions about that. There are just about what was mentioned about widening, reconfiguring the traffic light, traffic sequencing, timing, the provision for a stop for pedestrians to go across the road in both crossing McChesney and Lucy Street. I think those things are probably going to be coming up, right? And then I had, one comment about also going this entrance into the Mohawk Ave. There's a lot of there'll be a lot of traffic coming up that way. Now, I go to Planet Fitness 3 times a week. I sit at this intersection of McChesney and Hoosick, and there's quite, even now there are quite a lot of cars that might be waiting here. You might not be able to get out of here with one light. It takes more than that. And the other thing is that's because the traffic is backed up from Price Chopper all the way up here. And there's no way that you're going to be able to get very much traffic as what is expected from the traffic diagrams. Okay, that's going to be a real problem to get into there. And I have some other sort of aesthetic or visual appearance concern. I think overall, there was a lot of uncertainty for what the site's going to be like. I've been to every planning board meeting, I think, with this project, with Maria Views, right? And I think most of that is concentrated up with the Chick-fil-A, right? And much to the detriment that there's no discussion about the other businesses in the project, right? The Quick Check is pretty well defined. I've seen the plans in the building office, building department, and they seem to mesh with what these Quick Checks look like. I've never seen one. I've looked at them online. Okay? It's essentially just like a version of a bigger Cumberland Farms. This one's about 40% bigger, both in building size and in footprint compared to the Cumberland Farms down in Hoosick. Right? But in the course of this, though, the other businesses have been ignored. Who are the tenants? I'm not sure what businesses are going in there, right? The retail business started out as a medical building, if I'm not mistaken. Then it was morphed into a sort of like generic retail business, maybe a mattress store. But there's been no mention about who's going to go into the restaurant, the fast food restaurant there. If you go in the building department, the Quick Check building is well defined, dimensions, signage, everything. The two other buildings are labeled, quote this, proposed building shell. In other words, you don't know what the building's going to look like. You don't know if that's exactly it or not. There's no mention of materials, colors, what sort of signs, number of types of signs will be there. Will there be a business like KFC, where there's going to be like somebody's big face on the side of the wall, that's gonna be one of the signs. You just don't know, you don't know what might be there. You know, this might morph into something like, the generic retail building might morph into something like a Dollar General. I don't know. Who knows? Until somebody is defining a specific tenant with some sort of commitment, there's no way of knowing that. If you got something like a Dollar General, the appearance in the traffic load is gonna just change incredibly compared to what, a mattress store, for example. Okay, and then ditto with the restaurant. So I think the tenants need to be identified. I think, and until that, it's gonna be difficult to pass judgment on this. Because almost all the conversation before was taken up with Chick-fil-A. And there was very little discussion of these other buildings. And the other appearance factor is green space and landscaping. I'm not sure what the green space requirements are for this. There's very little mention of this. The west side is pretty barren. There's only like an 8-foot strip of grass along the outside of this, along Mohawk. Look at this. And then the east side may have more, but the plans that were in the building office, it showed things that were probably plants, but there was no legend to the plans. So you couldn't tell what kind of tree it's going to plant, how big it was going to be, what the species were. There's just things just haven't been defined very well. So I think it's just I don't know what the thing's going to look like. Now, if you're going to have, I think if you had, for example, on the east side, you have a lot of, as Ms. Bruno was saying, you have some very nice trees there. Why don't you shift this sort of landscaping to the other side? I mean, it seems simple enough, and that would make things a lot better. I mean, if you're gonna wreck the character of the area, you might as well put a little class into it somehow. Okay, and then I have a question about the construction. Is this all to be done in one phase? Is everything going to be done at one time? Because that's going to make a big difference on, for example, for traffic on Hoosick. I think just the day that those trees are going to come down, maybe you do it on a Sunday or something. I don't know, Sunday's not a good day for traffic. There's no good day for traffic. That's going to be quite a lot of obstructions there. And then also for example, when the planning board talked about when this business was introduced, there was very little talk about the operations. For example, as Ms. Bruno brought up, what are the hours of operation? Usually, the planning board usually get this in some sort of narrative from the applicant. And this just didn't happen. I'd like to see the public hearing kept open until some of these uncertainties are settled, like who the tenants are going to be, right? And then what the DOT modifications of Chesney and Hoosick are going to be, to really get an idea. It might be too early to pass judgment on this right now, or just let's put it this way. In the planning board's typical way, I think you're very good at making moderate suggestions to make improvements. And I think that's but I'd like to have an opportunity for the public to come back and put feedback into that, into the process.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else wish to come up? Sure, absolutely.
Just in running my dental office, the psychology, I guess, of some drivers coming out, they obviously made it into the dental office. But on the way out, they would go up to the receptionist and they would say, "We're so nervous about trying to get out, back on the way out. How do we, we don't want to get in an accident, we don't want to." So, even my dental practice, we sent people up Noble and said, "Okay, go left, and go left, and there's a light there." So that's just the dental office egressing people and setting them up. And people were very relieved that they had that opportunity because they had a light there. Now, now they felt much better about doing it. So I don't know what happens if you have older, either nervous drivers or older drivers who are nervous about busy intersections. Pouring out of this place across the hall, across the street, I agree. How many people are they gonna see up in Mohawk Avenue? We did it. We sent them up there.
Okay, thank you.
I, Robin Jones, 105 Hillside Avenue. I applaud all these members of Brunswick because they brought all the concerns, being that I live in that neighborhood. Do we need to have another gas station when there's Cumberland Farms and there's one at 142, 146? You have Stewart's, you have what was it, Spiak's? Do we need another fast food restaurant? Do we need another mattress store? There's one across the street. The traffic coming out doesn't just go up Mohawk Avenue and over Fayette. They get up to Roosevelt and they think, oh, well, if we continue on up through, we can get down behind Hannaford and come out down in Zickaway. You can't. It's a dead end, and that's where I am. And the people that come up don't read the dead end sign and turn around on our front lawn is ridiculous. The people that walk up that way and say that I'm a liar when I say that there's not a thoroughfare to go through there is getting ridiculous. I don't want to have to meet those people and have arguments. I don't want to see our neighborhood destroyed. It's taken the safety that we feel, and I have felt all my life living here. Now we have cameras and we have lights because people are up walking around with flashlights at nighttime and they're leaving cars or they're robbing the bank and parking their car in our pine trees and abandoning it, and the troopers are coming up. That's not the neighborhood that I grew up in. And I don't want my children and grandchildren to have to have fears like that. And the more businesses that become in that area, the worse it's going to become. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to come up?
Tony Smitzeri, I live on 10 Mohawk Avenue. I just want to make a comment. If you're gonna have people come out of here, this street here, this intersection right here is not wide enough. I've been hit twice trying to go east on Hoosick Street because they use that center lane as a driving lane, not a turning lane.
Not just there.
All right, we've heard a lot of different comments here. I've gotten about 15 little bullet points that I've written down. Obviously, the applicant has to address each one of these comments. Most of them are geared towards traffic. I know there's a lot of concern about Mohawk Avenue. We've heard those concerns. Plus a variety of things involving character of the town, the hours of operation, construction traffic, and so forth and so on. These all have to be addressed and responded to by the applicant. And there are things that, through our conversations and the application process at the planning board and at the ZBA, we are asking some of these questions, and they are being, there's comments being made. So, is there anyone else who wishes to maybe add something different to this as far as an observation, a view, a comment? You're certainly welcome to come up and say anything you want, but I just kind of, you know,
I actually just had a question as opposed to a comment. If there are additional things that people want to submit in writing, is there time post this meeting for them to be able to do that? So that if they like watch the presentation online,
we will discuss that at the end of the public hearing,
awesome, thank you.
whether to extend it or whether to have a written comment period. So,
Excellent, thank you, I appreciate it.
so anyone else who wishes to make comments? We will be discussing this at our meeting following this public hearing. This is the only item we have on our agenda, and I think when, there's going to be some questions asked of the applicant based on some of the comments that you made, just to clarify a few things. So I encourage you, if you're available, to stay for our portion of the public hearing. You cannot make any comments. There's no public input at that point, but at least you may be able to get some information where we're heading with this. So you're entirely welcome to stay for the planning board meeting. Now I will ask if there's any more comments that wish to be heard. Please feel free to come up now.
Yes.
Okay.
Mary Desborough, I just think it might be worth sharing with you that I had a communication with one of the partners in reviews. I'm not sure if everyone was aware of it, I learned this myself, but one of the owners is a past resident of the town of Brunswick. When speaking with him, he really wants to be part of our community. I think he's willing to do what he can, to meet the concerns of the citizens. So I just felt that might be worthwhile. So you never know, it's worth an ask, so I thought I would share that one.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to address the planning board. At this point, before we decide whether or not to close the public hearing, does anyone feel that there should be an extended period for written comment, or that the public hearing be left open? Any comments on that from my board?
I think you can, I don't think we need to leave the public hearing open, but I think we ought to have a comment period for writing.
Okay.
Possibly 1 week, and then they could be addressed at the next meeting.
Okay.
So that would be for written comment.
For written comments, either email or written comments. Does the board feel that that's worth pursuing?
Yep.
Ian, would you like to discuss that with your board?
Yes, yeah, thank you. So I do like the idea of keeping the public hearing open. In regards to that, there is a lot of information that came up tonight that the public is not aware of. A lot of questions in regards to the tenants, what that would look like. So I would be in favor of keeping open the public hearing. I'm also open for keeping or having written comments submitted during the public hearing extension. If you have any other comments or how you'd like to submit?
I agree, a lot of the comments come up tonight might actually change some of the plan, which might change some of the proposals in front of us as far as the zoning board for variances. So I agree with you. Period open and public hearing.
I don't know, is there a time frame to get a response back from them?
Well, generally speaking, the comments are part of our minutes. And depending on the time period, sometimes with us, there's only usually 2 weeks between our meetings, where the ZBA has a full month to do that. I don't know whether the applicant would be ready to address some of these comments at our next meeting. You would, with a written.
Yeah, excuse me, Tim with Bolton. We could certainly provide a written response As soon as the comment period is over, within a week, we could provide a written response to the comments. The comments heard tonight are not new news. A lot of the requested additional information has been previously submitted in the application materials. There's been a lot of information that's been submitted to this council. I understand how everybody can't, find the pieces of the puzzle that they're looking for. So in our response memo, we can direct folks to where that is. But I don't see any major comments that's going to change the site plan. We have been challenged tonight to relook at Mohawk. We can certainly do that. That's not going to change our site circulation or layout of the site plan. I did hear a mixed board whether or not to keep the public hearing open or closed. I would suggest closing the public hearing but keeping the comment period open so folks can respond in writing. But one of the major concerns and comments tonight was the aesthetics of the abandoned properties. If we keep this public hearing open, we have to schedule another joint public hearing. It's going to be another month. We're already pinched tight to the construction season this year. So if there's a project that's going to happen to fix the abandoned property issue, we would graciously appreciate, continuing to move on in the process. But we have no objection keeping the written period open to address any additional thoughts that might come from the public.
So to your point, I would think that those abandoned buildings and safety issue, and speaking for the zoning board of appeals, that's not our jurisdiction. But what is our jurisdiction are the setbacks that are being requested and the aesthetics and how it impacts the neighborhood in particular and the community at large. So again, I would ask that the public hearing period be kept open so that the zoning board of appeals can do that. And Andy, I'll ask you, could we split, or if this were to continue, that would have to be with both boards?
Well, you asked an interesting procedural question. So the public hearing was scheduled as a joint public hearing. It is a meeting of both boards. It's technically a public hearing of the zoning board, and it's a public hearing of the planning board. Subject to further research, and frankly, I've never addressed that procedural issue before. I've been doing this quite some time, so just in general, I would not think that there would be a mandate to continue a joint public hearing, that you do have separate jurisdictions, you open a joint public hearing. One board could certainly close its portion of the public hearing if it chose, and one board could maintain it open. I think that opening this as a joint public hearing mandates that it has to remain a joint public hearing. I think both boards can make that determination. Now, having said that, as I said, I've never addressed that procedural issue, and frankly, I'm not certain if that's procedurally correct in it. So, subject to further check, to be very straight, I don't know the procedural answer to that, but I would think each board could act on its own.
How would our board like to do? Are we interested in keeping the public hearing open? You both, I think from my point of view, I would be satisfied with, 10-day, 7 to 10-day extension on written comments.
I would note, again, you ask an interesting procedural question. Each board tonight has its own jurisdiction. Remember that. Planning board sits in review of the site plan, the special use permit, and subdivision applications, and is receiving comment on that jurisdiction. The zoning board is receiving comment to which jurisdiction, which are the requested area variances. So keep that in mind on your determination to keep the hearing open. Procedurally, in the event one board decided to close the public hearing, and let's say for discussion's sake, the zoning board wanted to keep the public hearing open, that public hearing would be limited to comment particular to your jurisdiction, which is area variances. And the same would hold true for the planning board. If the zoning board chose to close its public hearing, then the comments particular to the variance jurisdiction, that would be ended, but certainly comments particular to your jurisdiction would continue. So just keep that in mind in your deliberations.
So our next regularly scheduled zoning board meeting would be March 17th. And we could act on closing the public hearing at that meeting, one or two separately, just for the zoning board.
The answer would be no, because if you continue it, I think on this project, we would probably notice that the public hearing would be continued at your March 17 meeting. I checked procedurally. Boy, now you're asking a lot of procedural questions. But when a public hearing is open, there's no legal obligation to continue to notice that in the event the hearing is kept open and continued into a subsequent meeting. That'd be within your discretion as to whether you wanted to additionally notice the continued public hearing or not, legally not required, but that's something to take into account. We sit here tonight, March 6th. You've got your meeting then March 17th. Under our zoning law, public hearings require a 10-day notice, publication, posting, signboard, and mailings. So it becomes a little tight time-wise.
We can't act until they act on the variances. Okay?
No. It's like a law school question. So, under the New York Town Law on subdivision and site plan, the reviews can run concurrently when variances are required. But in terms of action, I would agree with you, Dave, that planning board is without jurisdiction to approve a site plan, which is technically not in compliance with the zoning law. That's why the variances are requested. So I think sequentially, the zoning board would need to act first on the variances in the event they're granted. That would render those zoning non-compliance issues resolved and you can move forward on the site plan.
I'm gonna ask another question, Andy. If we were to close, the planning board were to close and even put a 7-day extension for written comment, that would leave us to independently move forward with reviewing the project, correct? He'd have to address the comments and give those to us.
Correct.
If they kept their public hearing open, then it wouldn't be more of it's no longer a joint public hearing. They'd have to reopen and renotice as far as extending the
I think to be conservative procedurally, I would agree with that. At that point, it would not be a joint public hearing. If the zoning board would keep the public hearing open, I think procedurally you would want to renotice that as the continuation of simply the zoning board public hearing. So that could not be done procedurally for your March meeting. That would extend to your April meeting.
What if the planning board decided to keep the joint public hearing open so that the process continues in a timely manner?
Mhm.
So that at our next planning board meeting, we would have another, I mean, if you're committed to continuing the public hearing, the planning board probably should agree to do the joint public hearing at the next planning board meeting and keep the process moving, answer your questions and concerns. Otherwise, it's going to be June before anything gets settled. I mean, these people are all in limbo. They don't know what's going to happen. And
Well, one of the options for each board to consider, and ultimately it's the board's procedural discretion on what you'd like to do, is there was certainly a special meeting of the zoning board tonight. The next zoning board meeting is March 17th. One thing the planning board could consider is a special meeting as well. That's going to be meeting in a couple of weeks, right? You could continue certainly the public hearing at that time. You could also do it at your March 20th meeting, that'd be yet another special meeting, of the zoning board to come up.
So do the special meeting on the 17th for both.
That would be their regular meeting, and like tonight was a special meeting of the zoning board. If you were inclined to do that, it'd be a special meeting of the planning board to be held March 20th, or strike that, March 17th. And your regular meeting would continue to be held on March 20th. These are all procedural options for the board to consider, both boards to consider.
And we got a question. If we hold a meeting open, a public hearing open, planning board closes, is there a time limit when they close their meeting or close their public hearing before they have to act?
Well,
And would this affect that?
so the answer is yes. Okay. Are there timeframes applicable? So in New York, in front of the planning board, recall, there are 3 applications pending: subdivision, site plan, and special use permit. Each one of them generally carry a time frame, a decision within 62 days following the close of the public hearing. With respect to the site plan and the special use permit, there is no danger of a default approval if you fail to meet that time frame. However, with the subdivision, there is. You have to act within the 62 days, absent extension by consent of the applicant. So is there a time frame that could be triggered here? Yes. In fact, there are time frames on each of them. This board has a time frame on deciding on the variance at the close of the public hearing. None of them carry a default approval except oddly enough for subdivisions. That is in state law. And so there is the risk that at least the subdivision portion, it doesn't approve the site plan, doesn't approve the project, but the subdivision portion could be subject to a default approval in the event the board doesn't act within that 62-day period following the close of the public hearing. As a practical matter on a project like this, not a significant issue because there are so many more approvals, municipal approvals from each of your boards that the applicant would need. But just from a procedural standpoint, the answer is yes, there are timeframes triggered when you close the public hearing. So again, that procedure is within the discretion of each board.
But then Kelly, as the applicant, so the zoning board will meet again on March 17th. That's about 10 days. Is that sufficient time for you to address the comments that were made tonight by the public? Because the point that I would like to continue public hearing would be for you to comment on those comments and then for comments to come back.
Yeah, we can respond to these comments. I could even go through these comments and give you our opinion on it tonight if you wanted. None of which I see related to the variances necessarily, most of them traffic and other code compliant items. But we can formally respond to the comments we've received to date, and then we'd have to follow up with an additional response to any subsequent comments, I would imagine, if that was preferred.
All right, so I would prefer the formal response to the comments instead of you commenting tonight, yes. Mhm.
Yes, Russ, you seem to be looking over in my direction.
I'm always looking in your direction.
It sounds as
So-
if I could recap, obviously the issue in front of both boards is the public hearing is currently open. One of the issues to decide is whether to keep the public hearing open or to close it. In the event it's closed, whether to have a written comment period or not. There are some procedural issues we've discussed on one board closing and one board keeping the public hearing open, which raises some procedural questions, not that they could not be resolved. One of the things also discussed was could the applicant respond to comments in writing in advance of a March 17th meeting date that would allow the board's additional information, the applicant's response to the comments received tonight, as well as an opportunity for the public to review those in advance of March 17th. So if the planning board chose to hold a special meeting on the 17th and continue the joint public hearing with the zoning board at its regular meeting, that you could do that, take additional comments from the public, and then decide at that joint meeting, March 17th, how then to procedurally advance the project review. Again, those issues are in front of each board for determination within your discretion.
And when would be an appropriate date to respond to give this board after time to review? Get a calendar.
Well, that's one of our concerns. I think everybody on both boards is concerned with having enough time to review it, to get it back from you. But we want to meet the 10-day guideline there as well. So I think for our meeting, that will be nice. That could give you time to
Well, the
respond.
responses don't report a 10-day notice, right? It's just-
Right. And
Well, I'm saying we were going to keep it open and then.
No, my suggestion earlier about noticing was addressed to if the planning board chose to close its public hearing and the zoning board continued its public hearing to separately notice that. Right? Again, legally, if you continue a public hearing that has been open, there's no need for additional notice legally. That simply is a continued public hearing at a date. Obviously, if that's what the board's decided to do, that would be posted on the town signboard and the town website. What I'm suggesting, there's no legal requirement for additional publication in the official newspaper or additional mailings.
I'm going to refer to my board right now. Under certain circumstances, would everybody be agreeable to leave the public hearing open to the 17th? And then we would be going to their board meeting as the joint public hearing.
One benefit of that is it starts at 6, not 7.
Can we get this set up here?
Okay,
That's a good question. I think so.
We're getting the comfy chairs.
Wait a second. In that case,
I'll tell you the real reason I don't want to March 17th.
gee, I wonder why.
Having a third kid on March 17th.
Oh.
So you probably won't see me, but we'll have representation.
Okay.
Congratulations.
March 20th would be a year then.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll Skype it.
And I think I speak for the board then that we would be willing to agree to leave the public hearing open, continue it on the 17th at a special joint meeting of the planning board and the zoning board at the zoning board meeting. And these 10 days that we're going to hear, that is when we will receive any additional written comments. There would not be an extension beyond that for the comments. This would serve two purposes.
So when would it be reasonable for you to be able to respond to comments for you?
17th is
Monday.
At least the 6th.
We'll maybe shoot for a week from today. That seems reasonable to this board.
Yes, yeah, that would be good.
And we'll get them on a Thursday and have the weekend to review it. So forth. So that's good. That works.
And procedurally, while both boards have their public hearing still open, we can still be receiving written comment.
Oh, correct. Yes.
Okay, then I guess officially, I will make a motion to leave the public hearing open and adjourn it until the 17th. All those in favor? Or do I have a second on that motion? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
6 p.m.
That's
That was the
That's the zoning
determination
board.
of our planning board.
And so I make a motion to hold over the public hearing on zoning board of appeals, and then the second. Thank you, Darrell. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And that is also to continue at your regular meeting March 17th.
Yes. Thank you. 6 o'clock.
Aye.
6 o'clock.
You have Mr. Katie?
We have a Spring Avenue, 6:15, 6:30.
Oh, my.
So it would have to be, 6:45.
So again, timing wise, the zoning board does have 3 public hearings scheduled for the set March 17th, 6:15 and 6:30.
Okay.
So it may be closer to your regular time, 6:45.
Okay. Do you need a correction on that?
The minutes will note that.
Okay, at this point, I believe the zoning board would now have to adjourn their meeting.
Right.
Now, you're welcome to stay if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So I make a motion to close the zoning board of appeals special meeting. Thank you for a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, now to continue on to our general meeting. I will read what's on our agenda. And I welcome people to stay because we're going to be discussing these views. Some of your questions may be answered. Okay, first on the agenda is Marie's Muse LLC, site plan, minor subdivision, special use permit. Applicant seeks minor subdivision approval, site plan approval, and a special use permit to construct a retail store with gasoline sales on the western portion of the site and a drive-through restaurant and second retail store on the east portion of the site at 727, 737 Hoosick Road and 4 Mohawk Avenue. This would be involve a joint public hearing with the zoning board of appeals. Commence at 7 p.m. Marie's Muse is the LLC. The second item on our agenda is the Paramount Building Group minor subdivision. For the sake of time, they notified us today that they wish to be taken off the agenda and put on the agenda for our next meeting on the 20th. And the third item on our agenda was the King site plan. This was a construction of a dog boarding and kennel operation at 272 Smithhill Road. Edward King was the applicant. He has withdrawn that application, so that's no longer before the planning board. Our first order of business is to review the minutes of the February 20th, 2025 meeting. Is there any changes, additions, or comments, corrections to those minutes? Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the minutes of February 20th as they were submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Marie's News. And we obviously just said that the public hearing has remained open, but there are a few things that I would just like to talk about in relation to some of the issues that were there. Sure. I don't recall us discussing the actual hours of operation of the Quick Step. Is that going to be a 24-hour operation?
It is, and I don't recall if it was this board or the zoning board, but that was mentioned in one of the meetings. It is a 24-hour operation.
Okay. And construction traffic, that has to be discussed with DOT, I would assume. Is that correct?
That's right. New York State DOT will require full work zone traffic control plans, both for vehicles and pedestrians for the duration of any work in the right of way. And they don't allow any impacts to the traffic on Hoosick Street as part of our development, even when we're out there in the right of way.
Okay. And just for the record, I know there were some questions, especially from Jim, you know, the occupants of the other site are indeed a mattress company, retail mattress sales.
That's been transparent to this board throughout the process.
I know it has.
That's slated.
I'm just
for
verifying
mattress
for the record for the people that
Yeah, Mattress Firm and Chipotle, but remember, these signed leases have timeline obligations too, and 2 years into this process. It's very tough to hold on to these tenants, which is why, we've already seen the tenant turnover. So, it is being permitted as a retail and restaurant, but yes, it is slated for Mattress Firm and Chipotle at this time.
Chipotle is not a sit-down restaurant, it is by an online order and so forth and so
Well,
on.
Chipotle does have indoor dining, but the drive-through is not your typical drive-through where you pull up to and then you order. It's a order ahead, Chipotle they call it, where you place an order ahead of time on your phone, call in, however you want to place your order ahead of time. You're given a time slot, then to go into the drive-through and pick up your meal.
Is there another store within the area that's operating like this?
Yeah, they're rolling this Chipotle now over the past 2-3 years, all across the capital region.
Is there a feel for the
There's,
in-house, traffic, as far as the sit-down?
well, Glenville has one, Glenmont has one, so you can drive past those now. I personally own the one in Glenmont. Town of Bethlehem, very happy with it.
One in Latham, is that one or not?
Latham, doesn't, on Wade Road, there's no drive through.
All right, let's just discuss briefly this Mohawk Avenue situation. The entrance onto Mohawk is two ways, is that correct? So instead of going up Roosevelt, people that are not necessarily using the Quick Step or the other businesses could go up and use the light to exit onto Route 7. Is that correct?
Correct, they could come into our site to utilize the facility.
Okay. Is there any things that were considered with the traffic on Mohawk as far as infiltrating into the other area?
Yeah, so the traffic studies that were submitted do have projected trips. And in that traffic study, you could physically look at how many trips are projected to utilize that traffic. It's a low number. Folks are going to use the traffic signal. That's where you're going to have a dedicated moment of stop traffic to get everybody's experience to get stuck without traffic signal. So the majority of traffic is going to utilize that. It is good practice to have redundant access, not only just for emergency vehicles, but when congestion at that signal might back up into the site, it's a second point of egress as needed. The navigating through the neighborhood, I mean, that's a great comment. Nobody wants that. We're not trying to encourage that. There could be additional signage that's proposed at that driveway to prohibit, cut-through traffic. That is one way that you might be able to mitigate that. If it becomes the easy path. So folks who are going to navigate there, it's got to be an easier path. So if you do think that is going to be the path of least resistance, that folks are going to start encouraging and going down, then you could avoid something like a no cut-through signage or something.
I know, like up at the Lowe's up in Lake, you exit towards the car wash, you go in front of the building. The curbing is such that you can't turn right onto that side street. You have to go to the right. Is that something that could be possibly entertained to avoid traffic from going up Roosevelt to circumvent the lights?
Yeah, I'd like to run that by the traffic engineer just to see if they have any concerns. But it would mostly impact those neighbors if they utilize the site for this use, they also want to be able to take that bike into the neighborhood. Should they be able to? But I can run that by the traffic engineer to see if they have any other concerns.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to,
But they could come right out at the light, come right onto Mohawk.
Call that a pork chop.
Business.
okay.
One direction.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be an inconvenience, obviously for the residents there. But it's gonna deter additional traffic from going up there. I mean, if that was the point that they were trying to, I think, make it. They don't want more traffic going up there.
You do it with signs.
I mean, that was one of the issues, obviously, there's issues in that small section through there that, it's gonna be congested by, the person is, Julie, what's her name? The dentist.
Dr.
Person, right.
Dr. Vassell had mentioned that they used to, encourage folks to go through that neighborhood whereas now that we have access through our sites, those folks could go through our site and get the signal rather than going up to Roosevelt. So maybe we are creating a better situation for that use with this development and less encouraging folks to go through. I don't see it really happening that often. I do think we could probably get away with some signage to prohibit those who are thinking twice about it.
My gut feeling is that the people, in particular, people when they get gas and stuff like that, they're gonna go right around to the light.
You're gonna want to go to the light.
Yeah.
That's the
You might
easiest
have
way to
somebody
do that.
parked in the back that gets groceries, you might want, I'm not trying to downplay this, but, I think if the light's there, there's a way of getting out. I think it's
It's gonna be your
gonna
fastest
be
way.
used, it's gonna be used.
Yeah, and I would say what Tim said is that there's a lot of talk about that intersection in Mohawk, and the light is the safest spot. There could be residents who come through our site to get to the signal for ease.
Yeah,
For the left, so even Ms. Purcell, when she developed or redevelops it, if possible, or gets another tenant, that tenant is likely to come through straight across into our property to hit the new signal
Mhm.
to maneuver. So, just look at different angles.
Does it make sense to make Roosevelt one way down?
don't believe so. I believe people, live up there, and that's what they're gonna do, they're gonna go up to their houses. Basically, then you would be forcing them down to the light, I guess, at Roosevelt to come around.
Tricky neighborhood cut from two. The roads are narrow, steep and steep. Really not desirable to go that way. I mean, it's.
Are you gonna widen Mohawk or?
No, there's no need to widen them up. We are proposing the sidewalk extension up to the side there.
On the back of, behind the gas station, that you have, looks like shrubs proposed.
There's a short retaining wall between the driveway and the rear property line. And there's vegetation, row, shrubs, trees, different vegetation species that provide a buffer. And our site plans on the landscape plan do provide a species list of what's proposed.
And what about a fence? If there's small children in that house, maybe a fence would be good to keep them from.
The fence extends from this point here to the
At the top of the wall or?
Going on the landscape comments, is there any opportunity to remove a space or two in the front of the foot stop to add a landscape island, tree island?
Yeah, so that frontage is elevated above Hoosick Street, there's a retaining wall up front there. So we wouldn't advise or recommend putting any large trees behind it on top of the retaining wall. Just, the root system gets into the retaining wall, could cause some, concerns there. Shrubs are okay, we can look at supplementing some shrubs to offset the parking spaces up there. But I would recommend we veer away from some trees.
How about the corner?
Subsurface detention there, so you don't want tree roots, you don't want to do that.
And the corner at Mohawk, I think we talked about that before too, as potential opportunity for landscaping, but that was also,
Yep.
again, addressed as part of your stormwater management.
It's the stormwater, pipe along the frontage there. But I do think there is some opportunity in that corridor to do some type of low-level shrubbery to offset some of that wall face.
The trees in front of Chipotle, you're gonna take everything out of the, and put new trees in?
Yeah, so I know everybody's familiar with the site. If you look on the eastern side of the site, there's a retaining wall along the street frontage today. And then on the western side of the site, it's down level. We're essentially balancing the site, taking all the fill from the uphill side, filling it on the low side to balance the site. So, on the right side, there's just limited, we're cutting that grade, so there's limited grade.
There aren't any trees there anyway, in front of that big white house.
You've got 4 feet to bedrock on that side of the site, and then we're dropping about 3 feet, so there's not really, an opportunity to save any of the existing vegetation there.
One quick question, what is the total acreage of the entire site?
It's 2.57 acres.
Okay.
The lot 1. Yeah, I think the 1.6.
1.6
acre that was discussed earlier, I think that was just the gasoline service station's lot.
Okay.
And is there any opportunity to reduce the hours of operation at the cook stop?
That's the quick check program across to the portfolio.
Have we asked the question?
I believe Cumberland Farms is 24/7 across the street, so it's within the character of existing operations on the street.
Is coming from?
Yeah, I think so. We could work on lighting to reduce the,
Yeah, so there's no requested variance for lighting. So I think earlier it was requested to have one compliant lighting plan, and that's been submitted. We're not proposing any variances for lighting storage.
so we could turn it down at 10 o'clock, so it's not,
Oh, I see.
so it's, you know,
Variation. The eastern side would be turned off when hours of operation are closed. And then the western side, I can see if they have some type of dimmer.
Well, we're starting to review your comments for the public hearing, so, I think at this point, if there's no other questions, obviously, we're scheduled for a public hearing, the continuation of the public hearing, on the 17th with the zoning board. At that point, do you think there's a need to come in on a meeting on the 20th?
I would say only if this board.
I mean, it's only a few days, and I don't know if you'd have time to.
Yeah, I would say only if this board wanted us to. I think our next action is to go back to the zoning board and make sure the area variances are comfortable with the zoning board before we finalize any site plan approval with this board.
Okay.
Unless you see another reason and an update, or if there's an outstanding public comment that we want to rediscuss. But I don't see if you want to go with that.
Okay. And I have one quick question. What is your responsibility as far as your vacant buildings? they get broken into all the time. But
Yes, it's being in response to those complaints, being responsive to those complaints. I know Coleman's not here tonight, has followed up to some of the phone calls for vandalism. I do know one of the houses was broken into, the scraps for copper. So we can be responsive and board up the doors or lock the doors until we get construction going. I do know they are working with the town to get a demolition permit, at least start the demolition to take care of that.
that's what's gonna be my next question. Okay.
Yeah, I would prefer to start demolition now, even concurrently with the final review of this board. And just to give you a quick update on DOT, you know, that's a continued process, separate from this board at this point, but we have progressed detailed design drawings for the traffic signal and the road winding. That's been submitted to DOT, both the state and county for review, so we are progressing that concurrently. I had a conversation with Jim over at New York State DOT. Now that they have the full package and the plans, they are open to a drainage connection that I know we've talked about many times. They reached out and asked if the town could give their opinion on the matter. And just a refresher, the emergency overflow for these properties right now just sheet flows outside of the driveways over the sidewalk into the roadway. We are highly suggesting that we install a pipe connection for those emergency overflows. That way, if drainage does need to overflow into the state right away, it's underground, and it's not an icing issue over the sidewalks. They seem to be open to this now and understand, you know, the common sense approach of our request. They had reached out and passed that along to Wayne, requesting the opinion of the town, whether DOT should consider allowing that drainage connection. So I don't know if this board would give Wayne thumbs up or thumbs down to formally respond, and it would be just a simple email or memo that just says the town would support some type of.
I would coordinate with the stormwater coordinator for the town.
Bill.
Yeah, we could draft something up and review it with Bill. Yeah, we can send it back. All right.
Chutney, there was a comment about stacking, right? Got some issues currently with stacking, you can't slip through. But I believe with the improvements of McChesney, that's to help that existing condition, just so the zoning board and the public know that.
Yes.
I know, it's, you know, mentioned in the public hearing about the extent, you know, creating a turning lane portion there. I don't know whether that was, you know, completely understood at that point.
Right. So that's to.
The two lanes are to allow the multiple movements during a green cycle to get more cars out during that green cycle.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else? I think we can let you go. You put up tonight, huh?
I think so. Well, really appreciate your time. Thank you, and we'll see everybody on March 17th, and it would not be me.
Okay.
I still.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate
it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Like I had mentioned, the other two items on our agenda have been omitted or not omitted, canceled. That brings us to any new business. There's no new business, correct? And I don't believe there's any old business at this point. Is there anything that anybody wishes to discuss at this point before we move to adjourn?
Oh, we have to put it on the agenda for the March 20th.
The March 20th meeting, correct. Now, Paramount Building Group, they're on for March 20th.
They're kind of waiting on that 30-day time period for the reagency letter.
Yeah.
Right, that will not,
Kind of
that will not be,
until like a day after that 20th meeting.
yeah.
We did the minutes on that.
We'll have a review letter back to them probably either tomorrow or early next week, so that'll give him time to update the plan as well and get the ground running in the next 3 o'clock.
tentatively put Marie's News on. So as far as I know, those are the only two items that are to be on the official agenda at this point.
If you've been over Moon Lawn or Chesney Avenue Extension where they meet,
Yeah.
because some of the new poles put in, that's part of CVE. It was done by Niagara Mohawk.
My
but
understanding is it's part of the, three-phase, power that they're installing along with this.
It's,
Are you saying they officially has not commented one way or the other, whether it's directly related to the?
I don't know.
it's headed to the White Church or?
That's what I understand. That's towards the White
I know, it
Church.
goes down, yeah, it goes down Moon Lawn, goes up Chesney, and then stops. I don't know if they're gonna keep going.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting if they're going to White Church, that we were told White Church was full. Or maybe they're gonna put that little bit that they didn't have room for at Planet Fitness over there. But,
Oh, you mean the White Church substation?
yeah,
Could be.
Where is CBE in this whole scheme of things? Have they contacted us or anything?
Yeah, they emailed today, wanted to know what the status of the review was. I told them it's imminent, we're almost complete with our review now, I get review comments to them.
Okay. Does this mean that they may want to be on our agenda for the 20th?
But they have not asked to be on the agenda, so.
They have to ask.
They have asked, they're not going to do it.
Okay. The only other comment I'll make is that we might be seeing something from Freedom Arms as sort of a site plan.
That I don't know. I gave him a letter of what his site plan is like, and he doesn't have a site plan, actually. And he responded that he'd be working on it, so.
All right. Then I have nothing else. I'll make a motion to adjourn. For a second.
second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
So did.
Thank you for joining us. I guess we'll see you on the 17th.
Royal?
Okay.
No, zoning overruled our decision, and he's allowed to be. You too. So it's coming back to you once he has a complete application. The application was complete.
Your question about the power distribution, I specifically brought that up to them. And they tell us that supposedly the grid, which is already taking into consideration